There's a shooter buck at 400. There you go. Hit him again, hit him again. He went back to the same cedar, the big one to the right.
I lost him.
He's going up the draw. He's gone.
If you hunt long enough, you're bound to miss. That's just part of hunting. Sooner or later, regardless of preparation, things won't go your way. Whether it's a tough shot, a sudden movement, or just bad shooting, missing comes with the territory. And speaking of territory, I'm here in the high desert terrain of south central Colorado with my friend Matt Cook.
Take a look. Tell me if that's a mule deer down there.
I think it's a stump.
Is it?
Yeah,
Chicken liver. Looks like a deer feed, doesn't it?
yeah, it's a log.
It's kind of like a mule deer, but it's a log. It's not as good.
Matt owns a nice chunk of land down here that I've been lucky enough to hunt a few times. But this year, we're hunting mule deer on public land. Matt is new to public land mule deer hunting, but he's no stranger to public land advocacy. He currently serves as the board member of the Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, where they work to move the needle in DC on big, tough projects like the Pebble Mine. Each November, Colorado becomes a mule deer hunter's nirvana as two annual events align: the mule deer rut and migration. Combined, these elements translate to this: lots of bucks on the move and the possibility of seeing a big one.
Historically, this basin that we're in is literally a series of zones of different vegetation, different topography, and different weather. And the elk and the deer, they come in from both sides, they funnel in, they spend several days feeding, and then they go out and down towards the New Mexico border.
In the state of Colorado, there is something known as the Landowner Preference Program. This gives landowners access to special, unit-wide tags in exchange for preserving and maintaining quality habitat on their land. Matt, as a landowner, has been allocated 2 of these coveted tags. But just because these tags are hard to come by doesn't mean you'll be out there alone. And for Matt, the challenge of hunting on public land is a new experience.
I'm gonna take one more gander over here.
Despite the decks seemingly being stacked in our favor, mule deer hunting is rarely a walk in the park. We're here 3 days before the season starts to scout. I've never been in this part of the unit, and there's a lot of country I want to learn.
We should have at least a couple hours of good deer movement. Okay. Maybe 3 before they really filter into, that kind of stuff and go to bed.
Technically, this is getting to the bottom of the migration, this whole valley, and they continue through here.
Yeah.
Fall's shorter days and cooler temperatures trip something deep in the mule deer psyche, triggering an annual mass migration to their wintering grounds at lower elevation. This November, however, the temperatures are unseasonably warm. Instead of seeing deer moving all day long, the deer will act more like they do in October, only moving and feeding early and late in the day. It's midday, The heat is oppressive and the deer are laying low, so I take the opportunity to check our zeros back at the ranch. Matt's ranch manager, Cody Farian, a Stetson hat, Chaco wearing Colorado treasure, is going to give me a hand. The mirage is making it difficult. Take a look.
Maybe a little high right. That's the only blemish I see on the target though.
I want to be prepared to take a little bit of a longer shot. So I've got a fair amount of practice with both these rifles, but not a ton. And anytime I travel, I like to just at least take a few shots to make sure my zero is still on. But here we got a ranch that we can, push out some targets to 400 and 500 yards. So I set up big 12-inch target at 400 and at 500 yards, and really just want to validate that when I'm spinning my turret by my reading that I'm hitting where I'm aiming at. Oh boy, I was a bit high. Still adjusting my elevation. I'm still shooting 4 inches high at 400. After a few more shots and some minor tweaks to my scope, I feel ready to hunt. Gotta go find deer to have something to shoot at. A friend of Cody's, local Mike Ford, has hunted this area for years and has offered to help us on our hunt.
Got in here way early. It was real interesting this morning and in this country in general the last 3 days. It's like there's zero wind, which makes it tough. It's so quiet that all the animals can hear you coming and you can't move. Every little scratch on fabric seems so noisy.
If you want to find out what you really think of someone, spend a week in the woods with them. A good hunting buddy is equal parts serious and enthusiastic. The best of them have the ability to break up long hours of glassing with just the right amount of conversation, a sense of humor, and timing.
I know that there's some nature in there, but did you nurture that as part of your professional being? Like, I'm sure that you were like a funny kid and you were like, your friends thought you were funny, but then did you realize that that was like a thing that would be really behoove you in life and in business, and you said, you know what, I could like make it a little better?
I think personally I have a lot of physical and emotional obstacles that I had to overcome. Humor helps. That's it. Humor. No, but you know what? We did have a family. It was everyone laughing, joking all the time. It was that kind of family. Then we beat each other up, but in between, there was a lot of laughter. Plus, I also spent, a career in sales,
Right.
working with customers, etc. So
I mean, if a salesman's not funny, is he worth
he does
anything?
not sell anything. He does not sell anything. That's a fact.
No, I think it's storytelling.
Yeah.
I feel like you excel at that.
I'm probably usually the person in the story that is doing something less than savory.
That takes even more skill to tell a story about yourself, but
I
not
very
come off
often
as
have
like
to ratchet back, the tone of some of my stories. My wife's been prone to say to me, honestly, did you think that was appropriate to say in front of everybody? I get that about twice a week. Do you think that adults should talk like that? I also get called very often, that I act like a child. I know that shocks you, Janis.
Wow, well, that's why I like you. I don't like people that try to act like grown-ups all the time.
Yeah.
They're too boring.
To better our chances of finding a big buck, Matt and I split up to cover more ground. With the sheer number of animals passing through the unit and a full freezer back home, I take the opportunity to be selective. It's an experience I don't want to end. The tough thing about a migration hunt is the transience of it. Just because you see a buck one day doesn't mean he'll be there the next. Even when you find a good spot, it can be hard to commit to sticking it out and seeing what comes through. Choosing to stay put can be hard, but wrestling with these decisions is what makes hunting fun. And when you least expect it,
that right there is why you come, why you have a tag for this season. That was an absolute giant of a buck. Like the kind of buck that just makes you throw your phone down in the middle of the wilderness. I'm not in the wilderness, but in the middle of the forest, and just start chasing. I can't tell you what that is like. I mean, this is where my phone was. That buck was bedded right there, 20, 15 yards maybe. And I'm telling you, just a pig. And he just ran right through there. And I jacked one in, threw my phone down, and just took off. I saw a glimpse of him one more time, but I think he heard my footsteps. And he put it into the next gear.
my morning setup is almost too good. I can see every direction. I have to keep my head on a literal swivel so as not to miss any deer movement.
It's pretty special. I've got basically a day and a half left. And sure, would I like to take him home? I'm breaking my own rule. Don't pass on the first day. Would you like to take home on the last day? Would I like to take him home tomorrow? Heck yeah. But I have this constant push and pull of like, do I want my hunt to end? Do I want my hunt to end with that buck?
It's our final day of the hunt, and the pressure is on.
Get your bipod out, and I'm gonna have you lay down right here. There's a shooter buck at 400.
He went back to the same cedar, the big one to the right.
I lost him.
Moments after Matt's miss, I spot another buck. His deep back forks catch my eye, and I make the decision to go after him. The country between us is wide open, so I'll need to take a circuitous route to get to him. He looks content, but the temperature is rising, so I need to move quickly before he starts looking for a shady bed.
If he's anywhere near where he was when I last saw him, he should be under 300 yards. My scope is going to be turned down low. My parallax, I'll put it 3.
The buck bedded down, but lucky for me, he's in plain sight.
What the He's down, but he's not dead.
I can't explain what went wrong. My first shot hit, but certainly not in the vitals. I lost my composure, and the rest of my shots were rushed. Like my friend Pat Durkin says, big bucks make people do stupid things.
Not my best performance. Just gonna let him get out on his own.
It's the perfect end to a great week, but the way it played out makes me feel sick.
I'm sorry, buddy, for not shooting better. These tan colored bucks are just the prettiest thing in the world. Look at that. What I like to do, I don't know where I picked it up. I think I just read about it someplace, and it's like a European custom, and they do it in Latvia too, is that they use different twigs. They don't always use what they eat there over in Europe for this, but I like to use like what they eat. And obviously he's here on his wintering grounds, breeding and wintering grounds, and the sage, you know, is what they browse on and what keeps them through the winter. So anyways, I like to put a little bit in there as sort of a gesture to the last meal. I've said it before, my buddy Steve Ranella says it a lot. This is some of the finest eaten meat right here. If someone tells you that mule deer bucks don't taste good or that they're sagey, they simply didn't take care of their meat, or someone didn't cook it right for them. Now, I never shot one this late, this far into the rut, but these mule deer tend to be tender, mild in flavor, and just superb eating. Like, I'm really looking forward to having, you know, this thing will probably yield, I don't know, 70 pounds of meat. I'm really looking forward to it.
As the last hours of the season bear down upon us, Matt is running out of time to get his buck.
Look, just go up this flat part, go through the two trees, and there's a tree back there in the meadow, back in the sage. It looks like a deer on the right. It's his face.
Yeah, and he was in front of the yellow in that sage, and he just went into the cedars. Okay, like he's either gonna bed there or he's gonna go up and over to water.
Let's go. I'll see him yet, deal. Yeah, I see him. What range?
That's him. 270. Wow.
Did not hit him?
There you hit him. There you hit him.
Matt gets his buck, and as luck would have it, I make it back to them just in time to help butcher and pack meat.
Fantastic.
Look at that fella. That will work.
Nothing like the last minute of the season, huh?
Man, it's 3:30. Everyone else is watching football. They're home. We're the only people I think left out here.
Yeah, it's kind of quiet out here. In like a week though, when you've had time to settle down, I want to get your thoughts on it, because this is perfect to me. We hunt all week.
Yeah.
And the last day we get a couple bucks. I wouldn't want it any other way.
No, that's true.
There's a little anxiety associated with that, you know.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Is that what you call just a little anxiety?
Now we get to go home and go, you know what? We hunted 5 days. We got to just roam around these woods for 5 days and still got our bucks.
Oh, absolutely.
With time to spare before our flight's home, Matt and I prepare lunch. Venison heart, one of my favorite pieces of the animal. Season it, dust it in flour, and then sear it in hot oil. Remove the cooked heart, add stock to the drippings, reduce into gravy, and then serve it over a bed of rice.
Would you consider this like your first week of like real public land hunting?
If we're going to compare what we've been through this week versus my past experiences, it's definitely the first time.
What would you say, what's like the main differences?
I think dealing with safety and other hunters, I think is a big part of it. I think the second big thing is just the scope and scale of hunting on the National Forest. It's so much bigger. There's so many more variables that are controlled on a
It's almost like too much of a good thing, right? You just have so much land to roam, so many options that it kind of makes you nuts, because you're like, well, should I stay here or should I go 20 miles that way?
But I would tell you, it was an incredible amount of reward, risk reward. I mean, we took chances. We had things not work out, and then obviously we had a great outcome. But it was just a grand experience. Is kind of the way I described it to friends last night on the phone. Oh my, that's serious. You opened my eyes. Thank you for opening my eyes. This is a very large ecosystem here. You know, it's all part of a bigger system, and I really have gained a bigger appreciation for, hunting on public land and the role that it has, how tough it is.
Well, we'll do it again. I got to save up my preference points now and then come back.
What a week. Thank you, friend.
Yeah, man.
This was a perfect week. A challenging hunt, a new friendship with Mike, a stronger friendship with Matt, fantastic wildlife viewing, and a couple of dead bucks on the last day.